How dangerous is Asheville? Hi, this is 𝕊𝕉𝕋𝕋 with Nesting Dolls Realty, powered by eXp Realty here in Asheville, North Carolina. If this is your first time on my channel and you want to know everything about living, breathing, working, going to school, having a baby, want to know where to live in the Asheville area, you need to hit that subscribe button and hit a little bell to get notified every time I make a new video. Big shout out to everyone who reached out to me, who continue reaching out to me pretty much on a daily basis. My team and I appreciate each and every one of you. We helped dozens of people just in the past year relocate to the Asheville area. So if you need any kind of help, if you have questions about relocating to the Asheville area or Western North Carolina in general, feel free to reach out to us. The contact information is right here. We got your back when relocating to Asheville, North Carolina. It is time to address the safety in Asheville and the Asheville area. So when thinking about this video, I decided to break it down to three main parts: wildlife, weather and climate, and of course, crime. So stay tuned. I bet a lot of people don't think about wildlife when thinking about how safe the area is. But I think it's very important to talk about it because in our area, we have a variety of wildlife that can get ya. Just kidding. Still, it's important to know who we have, what lives and coexist with us here in the mountains. So let's start with the smallest things that can get ya. That would be insects, right? It would be bees and yellow jackets and spiders. We do have yellow jackets. We do have wasps that live everywhere. They like to make nests in around the houses, around the trees. A lot of times, and that's one of the reasons I quit mowing my yard, is because those little stinkers make nests in ground. So we have a lot of underground or in-ground wasps. They would make a nest in ground in the grass. You wouldn't even know that they're there until you step on them or until you have your lawnmower run across them, and that's gonna piss them off and they're gonna come flying at you and they're not gonna be happy, and then you're not gonna be happy. So that's very annoying, I think, and that's pretty common in the area. Again, wasps typically are not deadly unless you're allergic to them. So the next level of insects, or the higher danger of insects, would be some spiders. We do have spiders like black widow, and typically they don't attack anybody, right? But if you move a rock or get under something that's been there for a while and they have a nest there, they're gonna attack. Never been attacked or bitten by any spider here that's dangerous, but I know that can happen to people, especially dangerous for small kids. So keep that in mind. Don't put your hands on the rocks that you want to just check out. Put some gloves on, be careful, and just be aware that we have some spiders that are poisonous in this area. Going up in the food chain and the level of danger, next we have some poisonous snakes. We have some regular snakes that are not poisonous and they're actually beneficial to, properties, like black snakes that eat some insects and rats and bats, or not bats, but mice. So those are not dangerous, but we do have a number of poisonous snakes. Just recently, our neighbor spotted a rattlesnake, and we live like 10 minutes from downtown Asheville. It's not a wooded area. I mean, I'll take it back. Pretty much everything in the Asheville area is pretty wooded. We have a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees, a lot of shrubs, a lot of growth. But we live in the typical neighborhood with houses, close to each other, relatively speaking. And yes, there was a rattlesnake right on the sidewalk. So be aware of those, especially when you're hiking or biking somewhere in the woods with the kids, with the dogs. Tall grass or some vegetation, that's typically a good place for them to hide or hang out. So be aware of that. We have some poisonous snakes as well as non-poisonous snakes. I've been here since 2004. I've never seen a poisonous snake. I've seen some black snakes around our property, but that's about it. So doesn't mean, they're not here. I'm just saying it's not, at least to me, hasn't been as bad as it might sound. Next one is not dangerous or as dangerous to people, but maybe to pets. And I've never seen one up close. I've seen some from the far. Sometimes our night camera or security camera catches them at night, and honestly, I can't even tell if it's a coyote or if it's a fox. So we have both coyotes and foxes in the Asheville area. Again, I think it's more dangerous for the pets because they can lure them, and that would be the end of your little pet. We did have one not so pleasant experience. It wasn't an encounter, but a few years ago, when it snowed a lot and we decided to go on a little hiking behind our houses. We have the woods that adjacent to Blue Ridge Parkway. So we took the dogs and we went on. Nice white snow everywhere. The dogs are running in front of us. Then we saw these footprints of some animal and we're like, what is it? Or who is it? So we just followed the footprints, and then we saw a lot of blood, a lot of parts of the animal. I think it was a little doe that was killed by, my guess it was coyotes. So that freaked us out. We turned around, took our dogs, and went back as fast as we could. Not because I'm afraid for myself, but those little silly dogs will probably go chase anything and anyone in the woods, and that would be the last day we would see them. So be aware of that. Coyotes are here and they do kill pets sometimes if it's a wooded area or whatnot, or if you let them just go on into the woods. Speaking of predators that prey on domestic animals, specifically chickens, I have several friends who talked about hawks and other large birds try to successfully get some of the birds, some of the chickens. So that's another thing, be aware of. We have some large birds. I guess, I don't know, does any area in the United States not have large birds? But anyways, we have large birds that can get your chickens. Be aware of that. Next one, I've never seen them. I only see some of my friends who live up on top of the mountain somewhere, and they have some acreage and live in the pretty wooded area. They post that they saw them again on the security cameras. Bobcats, another animal that I guess can be dangerous maybe to small kids or animals. And if you live somewhere where you don't have a lot of neighbors to kind of scare them off, or you want to live in a wooded private area on top of the mountain somewhere, or somewhere private, you might have some bobcats visit. We also have a lot of deer. Not dangerous. After all, we invaded their space and they would come through people's yards. They would just, more of a hassle, I guess, and can be annoying because they can eat some of the plants. I think they like hostas. They love tulips. I planted like 40 bulbs one year, and then as soon as they start coming up, the deer ate them all. So after that, I stopped planting tulips. If I plant them, they need to be behind tall fenced-in areas so that they cannot get in and eat them all. Again, not dangerous. Actually, I'll take it back. They can be dangerous because they can jump in front of your car on the highway or on the road, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's impossible to stop or impossible to see them. They jump right in front of you. Never happened to me. I know a lot of people who that happened to, and that was a very scary, traumatic experience, and that can get you in a car accident, and it can pretty much total your car depending on the car. But it just, they're here. Be aware of them. Be careful. We have signs on the highway where, signs for deer that be careful, they can jump in front of you. But other than that, I don't see how they can be dangerous. Turkey goes along the same lines with deer. Not dangerous, but they can be everywhere as well. and they just mind their own business for the most part. I did hear sometimes that they can be fussy and they can go after somebody. So just general rule of thumb with any wildlife: stay away from them, don't approach them, don't try to come up to them, take a picture, feed them. That's a big no-no. So stay away from them, and generally they stay away from you. They don't want to get you. So that's that. Same goes for the biggest wildlife representative that we have in our area, and that is a bear. We have them everywhere, and by everywhere I mean even in downtown Asheville. They can be everywhere. I don't think I've ever seen a bear like up close. We usually catch them again on the security camera, or in the mornings we see what they've done to our trash can, and that is knock it down and spread all the crap from the trash can all over the yard. That's not a fun thing to do, and I know a lot of people who have a lot of bears in their communities or around the houses visit. They even have special locks on the trash bins so that they wouldn't be able to get in, because it's a hassle and you don't want to pick up your trash every morning, because that's gonna get old real quick. Again, do not feed the bears, do not approach the bears, leave them alone. Usually they will leave you alone, they don't want to deal with you. Especially if you see little cubs, that's an indication that you really need to stay away, because their mama is probably watching you somewhere from the top of the tree. If you encounter a bear somewhere on the trail or anywhere, what they say to do is make yourself look big by raising your hands, making loud sounds. So usually, typically, that scares them away. They don't want to deal with you. I know some people have some lids in the back, on the back deck, and when the bear comes to the backyard, they just slam those lids and they're like, bye, we don't want to deal with you. Next category that I wanted to talk about is climate and weather. So the biggest threats to people and properties would be fire and water, right? Whether it's wildfires or hurricanes and anything like that, that can be very dangerous. We don't really have any natural disasters here happening. I'd say it's a relatively safe area. That's why we like it. We don't have fires. The area stays pretty or humid enough, and we have enough rain, I think, to keep us away from fire danger for the most part. I've never seen or heard about huge fires happening here like they do on the West Coast. So that's a bonus. That's why one of the reasons we love this area, because we feel relatively safe. Also, we don't have any hurricanes. When a hurricane or tornado is happening on the coast of North Carolina or even South Carolina, what happens is that we get a lot of rain dumped on our area, and it can sometimes rain for 1 or 2 or 3 days in a row, but that's the worst that can happen. With that, it can create a lot of flash flooding, like it did about a month ago, maybe a couple of months ago, this past summer. We had a lot of flash flooding. The hurricane happened on the coast. We got a lot of rain dumped on our area, and those little creeks and streams and rivers that might not look very big or dangerous at all, they can get overflown pretty quickly, because all this water from the mountains, from the hills, it flows down to those little creeks and rivers, and it can be quite dangerous. So flooding in some of the areas is very typical. When it rains, not a lot. Some properties can get flooded when they kind of lower, not up on top of the hill. So a lot of properties can get flooded, maybe not the whole property, but the basement, the lower level can get flooded. A lot of roads can get flooded and become unpassable. That can be dangerous. Do not try to attempt to cross any kind of standing water. That can be very dangerous. It happens, I'd say, it can happen once or twice a year with a lot of rain that we have. and that's just something to be aware of, and not, like I said, attempt to cross any standing water on the road if you see something. If you're thinking about buying a house in the area, I always highly recommend checking the maps, GIS maps, and see if it's in the flood area, if it's in the flood zone, because not only, I mean, it'll suck if your property gets flooded, but also you'll have to have flood insurance, which can be a lot more expensive. So keep that in mind. We don't have hurricanes. We have a lot of rain. With that a lot of rain can bring sometimes strong winds or stronger winds that can bring down some trees, and those trees will bring down power lines, fall on houses and stuff like that. So in the big scheme of things, compared to some other areas, this is not as significant, but just wanted to mention that as well. Trees falling on cars, houses, power lines, that can happen anytime, you know, we have a lot of rain, and a lot of rain also brings lots of winds. Not as bad as the coast that has hurricanes and those winds knock everything down, but still. By the way, this video was made possible because of this beautiful space, Atelier Maison, which is located right outside of Biltmore Village in Asheville, North Carolina. And last but not least, when it comes to safety in any area, most people would want to know about crime rate. Here's the blanket statement. I'm, as a realtor, not allowed to say if certain area is safe or not safe, if certain neighborhood is dangerous, if certain neighborhood is safe. The only thing that we can say is that here's the website with crime stats. Please use that. Please do your research. So, blanket statement for me, when somebody asks about, well, which area is safe, which area is dangerous, the only thing that I can say is that crime does not have a zip code. Do your own research. I'm not allowed to say anything. I know it's weird. I know it's kind of, why do they do that? But those are the rules that I, as a realtor, have to follow. I can't say anything like that. Whenever anybody asks me, like, if it's a good area, if it's dangerous, if this area is safe, can't say anything. I'll be a source of the source and refer you to a website or a source that will tell you about crime stats. Crime rate did increase in the past year, all over the country, not just here. Statistically, crime rates did go up in this past year, both opportunistic crimes and violent crimes. Me and my family never been victims of violent crime, but I think that also goes along the fact that we don't really hang out or not out and about after dark much. And statistically, I think 78 or 80% of all violent crimes happen between 10 and 2 a.m., something like that. So they happen at night. We have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. We're usually at home by 7:30 p.m. and we're done for the day. So we are not out and about. And I can see how maybe if you're out and about somewhere in certain areas, you can become a victim of violent crime. We did experience some opportunistic crimes, and that started happening not just in this past year. And for us personally, it did not increase in this past year. It's always been like that. When we first moved into our house 7 years ago, I had my sunglasses stolen from my car. So after that, I started locking my car, even in my driveway. And I consider our little neighborhood and our area pretty safe, but opportunistic crimes can happen. We had Amazon package stolen from our front door, from our front porch a few years ago. That was right around the holidays, which is very typical. A lot of opportunistic crimes and stolen packages happen right around holidays because a lot of people order gifts and stuff like that, Christmas presents. So that's a good opportunity for criminals to take advantage of that. My son's bike was stolen from the front lawn. He just left it there overnight, and this dude He looked like he was drunk. Again, it was our camera that caught it. And so yeah, it didn't increase for us in the past year. I know some people told me in the past, some people from moms groups said that things like, we would never take our kids to downtown Asheville because it's so dangerous. And we go to downtown almost weekly with kids. Again, we're not hanging out there at night. It's all during the day, you know, in the evening, early evening. So I never felt like it's not safe for me. A lot of people, I think, associate homelessness with increased crime rate. And homelessness did increase in this past few years, especially in the past year. More homeless people in downtown area or West Asheville, places like that. So a lot of people associate homeless people with danger. I asked some people on some of my friends on Facebook, you know, something about crime and downtown Asheville, and somebody said it was awful. It felt dangerous. You know, there was always homeless people, and I said, well, I asked them if they were attacked, did they experience any crime? And they said no. So not to say that certain people from certain backgrounds do not commit crimes, but I'm just saying that some people associate homeless people with increased crime rate, and we do have more people on the streets in Asheville in the past year. Nothing against them or anything like that. Don't even try to read between the lines here. I'm just stating the facts. So with that, I highly recommend doing your own research, whether you are just visiting the area or whether you're thinking about buying or renting a place in a certain neighborhood or part of town. Do your own research, check out some websites. I love the app Asheville PD, and that app will show you some of the spots where some of the crimes happened. Violent and non-violent crimes. I like that app. Also, another important thing for a lot of people is sex offenders. If you're thinking about buying, whether you have kids or not, it doesn't matter. I highly recommend checking sex offenders list. You can also call sheriff's department and talk to them about that, about certain area, and they can probably tell you more about it. Again, if you ask a realtor which area is safe, we're not allowed to say anything like that. I know it's weird, but that's one of the ways to prevent steering that's been happening for decades in the industry. Well, that's about it. I mean, if you have more questions, more specific questions beside which area is safe and which area is dangerous, unless you're talking about wildlife and flood zones, I can talk about that. But if you have more specific questions about that, feel free to reach out to me and my team. Our contact information is right here. If you want to learn more about Asheville, what to do in Asheville, where to live in Asheville, check out some of the videos right here. And I will see you next time. Thank you.